This one blew my mind, this episode, because Tom Murphy is our guest today and he goes through cost segregation studies. Now, that doesn't sound overly sexy, I get it, okay? But if you're in any way, shape or form investing in real estate, if you have multifamily, if you have clients that are investing in real estate and you have clients investing in multifamily or whatever it may be, new construction, anything along those lines, you are going to want to pay attention to this episode, folks. Tom can be an incredible resource for you to really be able to go to your clients and show them the tax savings that are involved. Also, a great strategy that he brings up as well for properties that might be on the marketplace sitting for a little bit longer that you might want to add value to. Again, very insightful episode. We're doing some of this on our own personal properties as well, and Tom's been incredible to work with. Hopefully you enjoy. Hopefully it's very valuable for you. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Tom, welcome to Rethink Real Estate.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Now, I'm I guess I'm just not to overhype this, but I'm fascinated with what you do. I think it's something that when you took me through it, the terminology I think you used with me with our properties was a light bulb that doesn't last however long the depreciation schedule is. What is it? 27 years?
27.5 or 39,
That's
depending
right.
on the property.
So you said to me, does a light bulb last 27.5 years? And I'm like,
Yes.
No. And you're like, well, why do you depreciate it over that long? And I'm like,
Exactly.
Oh, that's a strong point. That's a really strong point. So first things first, who are you? What do you do? And why should people hang around and stick here and listen to the episode?
Yes. So I'm Tom Murphy. I'm with CSSI. We are the largest cost segregation company in the nation. We have done over 45,000 studies. And what's great about our studies, they're engineered based. There's about six different ways to do cost segregation, and we are the gold standard in doing engineered based. So they're very comprehensive. And the IRS, we have a great relationship with them and work really well with them. So that's who we are. So again, I'm Tom Murphy. I'm the Vice President of National Sales for CSSI. And we have a unique product, and that's primarily what I do. So we do cost segregation on existing buildings, but we also do it on new buildings. And so we can talk about that in a little bit, but that's what I do.
Well, I think that so we got introduced by a mutual friend, one of our agents within the network, Brian. He introduced us, and I've got to be honest, Tom, is that when Brian first I'm like, hey, I get a fair few introductions every day, like from different things. I'm like, I don't know, Brian, like really? And he's like, no, seriously, you need to hear this out. I'm like, okay, all right, I will. And and to like some of the stuff that you've been able to share with me from the cost segregation side of things and how to accelerate depreciation. And again, I might be using wrong terms here. So forgive me, anybody, that I'm getting any of this wrong, because I really am not an expert on it. Today, I really want to try and milk you, Tom, for all of the information that I possibly can with examples. And I think that that's probably the best way to lead into this is that I know that you've done a property recently in La Jolla. Can you give us the type of property and give us the idea of what you did in order to help that person from a tax perspective and the money they saved and so on and so forth by doing this?
Yeah. So first, just for the audience, cost segregation works on investment properties as well as commercial properties. So you do use it for short-term rentals, which is a 39-year life of depreciation. And if it's something that's a long-term rental, then it's a 27 and a half years. So that's what makes the difference between the time, right? 27.5 versus 39 is whether it's commercial. If it's a short-term rental, then that is considered basically that's looked at as like a hotel.
Right.
And so that would be 39-year life.
Can I ask a quick question? Can I ask a quick question on that, actually? It's just one that popped up into my mind. Tom, what is so let's say that I've got a property in Florida, it's on the beach, and I Airbnb it. That's short-term rental. So that's a 39-year depreciation, right?
Correct.
What if I change that halfway through to be long-term?
You could change that, and there'll be we'll make changes to that. It's called a 3115 form that we work with your accountant to make those changes.
So that's
So
probably a
there'll
really
be a
good point.
slight change on your schedule.
So
Correct.
that'll be a really good. That's another really good point. Is that you work directly with an existing CPA, okay, in order to obviously help them out with the
Yep.
depreciation side of things.
Yeah. So some CPAs really like it, some not as much. So there's a couple different ways to do cost segregation, and so a CPA can do it.
Yep.
And what they'll do is take the low hanging fruit, say the 15 most common items, and then go ahead and write that off.
Right. Gotcha. Understood.
And
Understood.
so we take about 110 different items
Yep.
and write that off,
No problem at all.
or change the schedule.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. So sorry, I
Absolutely.
interrupted your flow. So let's talk about La Jolla a little bit more.
Yeah. So that is a well that's an interesting one in the fact that it was one contract but two properties.
Oh, okay.
So
Explain
as
that.
one
So
owner
okay.
is one owner. So he had the owner lived in a single family residence, a small, and then right next door was a duplex.
Ah,
And so it was a combined sold property for about three. I think it was 3,450,000. I think
okay.
was the final sales price. And so the client called me up, and this is where it really works well with residential. Is the client called me up and said, "Tom, I'm doing a remodel on the duplex, which I'm going to use as a VRBO, and I'm going to do about a $300,000 remodel. I'm selling stock of 300 grand. I'm going to have a capital gains tax of about $100,000. Can you help me out? I'm going to keep this property forever." I said, "Yeah, we can." So what we did is we did a study, and initially we start with a study to give you a ballpark idea of what we can do. It's usually conservative in nature, and it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 days to get a response back on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a proposal, and it's like, okay, this is what we believe we can do. It is conservative in nature. It'll probably be better, but this is what we're expecting, right? So we'll start there. And if you say yes, then we do a comprehensive review with our engineers, and they will take every single thing in that property. So let me back up a step. Most people will take a 27 and a half year or a 39-year depreciation schedule. It's the
Yep.
most conservative, and that's just what they do. So what I like to say is we're bringing tomorrow's capital for today's benefit. So Ben, I can give you a dollar today, or I can give you a dollar in 39 years. What would you rather have?
Today.
Today. Okay, perfect. So if you give me a dollar, I'll give you 20. Does that work for you?
Works for me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how that works. And again, depending on whether it's got a lot of rooms, it's got a lot of treatments to it, or it might be bare bones. So that's where you'll get your variance. So you can't really say for every $1 million you can expect X amount of return. That doesn't work that way because it really is specific to the property.
Mm.
And that's where the comprehensive part comes in. So we get as much information as we can on the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just purchased it and you have an appraisal, that will be very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I know in other states, not so much in California, but like if you go to Colorado, they like to post 70 pictures of the property. It's like, well, that's going to give us a really good idea of what we're working with because we have so many pictures.
Yep.
So that if we can get that kind of stuff on the proposal, then that proposal is going to be really good and accurate. And, again, they're conservative, so you'll probably get a little bit more. So we start there on that proposal. And then once we're going about halfway through, we send out someone that will take pictures for themselves
Yep.
and document everything. And anytime you buy something new, whether it's be a residential piece of property or commercial, it's always good to have cost segregation done at the very beginning because then you're documenting everything that you have in place at that time. So one of the good things that we do, and we can coach clients along with it, is, hey, I'm going to remodel this. Okay, good. Put it into service right now and rent it out for, say, 6 months. and then or a year. And the reason why I say that is when you do go to remodel, you're going to capture depreciation on the stuff that you're taking out.
Ah.
You're going to get a benefit on the stuff you're putting in, and you're also getting benefit on the stuff you're taking out.
So that's kind of like, and again, I know we're not going to refer to this in specific, but that's kind of like the situation in New York for our property where we didn't rent it out. We basically just tore everything out
Correct.
and then and remodeled it from scratch as an
Yes.
investment. So we didn't get the benefit for the stuff that was in there previously.
That's correct.
Got it.
That's correct. And so that's where we can go in and coach and say, hey, this is the way I would do that if you're going to maximize it. So, give you an example on a large scale. So, we do large, we do small, we do large.
Yep.
But there's a property down in Louisiana. It's a massive hotel. They've got $100 million budget, and a tenant came in and says, I'm going to remodel this to a casino.
Mm.
It's a $100 million project. Their net benefit is $27 million.
Wow.
That's 27% of their budget.
So
So
when you
that's
say
on a commercial property. But we'll back up and go back to the one in La Jolla.
So just dumb that down for me a little bit. Okay, forgive me my ignorance here, but like, so they've had you before the remodel goes into play, either for that Louisiana property, you guys go
Yes.
down and you document everything, right?
Yes.
Before they tear it out and they put the new stuff in.
Yeah. The amount of depreciation they're getting on the stuff that's taken out is what really scored that really high.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Now, had they not spoken to us, did not have that in service, and just went ahead and did that, they would have left a tremendous amount of money on the table.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking about that now. Like, and you know, the shocking part about this, and I hope that there's a lot of people that are listening to this at the moment that are realtors. I know we have a lot of multifamily people that listen in as well,
Yes.
but hopefully a lot of them that are realtors that are advising their clients and everything like that are in the same boat as me. Maybe I'm just a big dummy, but I had no idea about that you could depreciate the stuff you're ripping out as well. You know, like hence the
Well,
reason that New York we've lost money there, obviously. So
yeah.
so in essence is that, you know, that's the part of this, then why Tom's on this at the moment is so that you guys can be so well equipped with advising clients. Now, again, you're not going to give them the accurate information that Tom's going to give them, but you've got the introduction to Tom at least that you guys can sit there and you can talk to them about, hey, before, like, if you're going to improve your property before you put it on the marketplace, maybe we need to, you know, do a cost segregation before you actually do so, you know,
Yes.
of an investment or whatever it may be. So sorry to interrupt, but coming back
No,
to
that's
residential.
perfect. So I'll give you a good example on a small scale. Back to our friend in La Jolla,
Mm,
where he said, "I'm going to have $100,000 tax liability because I'm selling $300,000 worth of stock."
mhm.
Okay, can you help me? Yes, I can. So we did a cost segregation study on that property, and we were able to save him a net of $125,000
Okay.
actual tax dollars. And so we completely omitted his tax capital gains of selling stock with bringing forward depreciation.
Right.
So we went in, and what we can do, and a lot of people don't understand this, and it's pretty simple in concept, or in theory, I should say. But how much is a Big Mac? That's $5.
Yeah, $5. Yeah.
Okay, but how much is a Big Mac? How much is the sesame seeds that are sit on top of the bun? How much is the bun? How much is the burger? How much is the lettuce? How much is the special sauce? That's exactly what we do. So we'll go in there and say, okay, of all of these things that we're looking at, how much of this can be depreciated in a 5-year schedule, a 7-year, a 15-year, or 27 and a half or 39?
How many? Where are the rules on that, Tom? Is that designated by, you know, the
The
lifespan of
IRS.
a? Okay, the IRS have a
The
lifespan of
IRS
product.
gives you, yes, they give you that schedule and say, okay, these are things that typically have a lifespan of X, X, and X, right?
Gotcha.
So that's where that goes into play. We go in there with our engineers, like, oh, there's crown molding. How much is the crown molding? Okay, that's got a 5-year life. You know, electrical fixtures, all of those small little things that people don't think about.
Mm.
Those are the things that go into a 5-year. And then there's 7-year, and then there's 15, and then there's the structure, the actual bones of the project itself, the exterior walls, the foundation. Those things you are not going to depreciate any. Those are what they are,
Yep.
right? And so we have Another thing right now. So in 2017, we had the CARES Act that gave you a 100% depreciation bonus on your 5-year property. So let's just say you had a 5-year window, and in that five years of all that stuff, you could take all of that in the very first year if you wanted to, 100% of it. And so, and then you have your 5 years, and then it tapers off, and then it flatlines.
Yep.
Whereas if you're doing a straight line, it's the same year in, year out. So what we're doing is front loading your depreciation and saving you money or your client on taxes so they can go buy another property or do the improvements that they want to do, whatever they're going to do. But we're freeing up that capital. So the general rule is if you're going to keep a property less than 5 years, you don't want to do cost segregation.
Okay.
That is a typical rule. However, the people that really understand it, they get it. And this is another way to look at it is we had a guy, we're like, yeah, it's 2 years, probably don't want to do it. He's like, well, no, you're freeing up $250,000 of cash for me.
Hmm.
So what I can do with 250,000 in the next 2 years, I'll be glad to pay it back in 2 years. So you can look at it as a 0% interest loan.
Huh.
It's the cheapest money you're ever going to get.
That's a great point.
Yes. And so that's what we're doing. We're here to help people to preserve their wealth and create more wealth by the assets they already have.
Yeah, I think that this is a like, I guess that you do this a lot, Tom. Like let's be honest. Is that how many times you get on a phone call with somebody that's like, okay, Tom, yeah, I know exactly how all this stuff works. Let's do it. Like in essence, you like there's got to be some incredibly wealthy, incredibly intelligent, incredibly all of these different things, people that have no idea how this stuff works.
100%. All day long. I mean, I can't tell you all day long. I'm talking to. So I'm the VP of national sales. I talk to our salespeople and the people that they bring in all day long, and they have no idea what cost segregation is. It's like, wow, there's one guy that talked to a guy that had 43 Taco Bells. He never heard of it. So it's like, okay, we'll do all your Taco Bells. We just did one contract, and we'll say we'll do all of them. Obviously, we gave him a discount. We're like, we'll do all of them, and this is how much money we're going to save.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, um, let me see here. So you're looking at an ROI for the costs and the benefit of anywhere from, you can go as low as 6-1, typical is 10-1, but you can score as high as 15-1 and 20-1.
Yeah.
Here,
I looked at this, Tom. Justin Green, who you did one of his investment properties for, he
yes,
sent me the report that you did on it, and
yes,
the saving that he gets on that, at the end of the day, like it's one of the things that it's just a no-brainer when you send the report through. It's kind of like why wouldn't you? It's one of those things, and
yes,
that's where I think that if we're talking to the realtors that are on here, forget the landlords and the people that own the buildings and whatever it is. It just makes sense to reach out to Tom. Like, just seriously,
yeah,
like we're doing it at the
yes,
moment on a property of ours in Virginia. We're doing it on our New York place. We're doing it wherever we possibly can to understand it. Now that said, though, if you're a realtor, you need to be buttoned up and understand this stuff. Like, we're going to do a
yes,
good job of trying to get you in touch with Tom and everything like that. But if you're a realtor, you need to be buttoned up on this, because going into a listing presentation and anybody that has an investment property, like if you're dealing in their primary residence, forget about the primary residence. You've got to be good enough to get that listing. Sure. Okay. That's fine.
yes,
However, the volume of investment properties that they probably have, you've got to be able to speak to this stuff so that therefore you look like somebody that knows what they're doing. I've got to be honest, now that I know this, if anybody that approached me in real estate didn't know this, you'd kind of be like, well, where have you been? Like
yeah,
it's
exactly.
one of those things, right?
Yeah, no, exactly right. So here's the thing. I was talking to an agent the other day. So I talk to agents as well as commercial brokers every day, all day long. So for your agents and other agents out there that are listening to this, is go back to the properties that you have sold. And this is where CRM, I'm a huge CRM nerd, but you go in and look at all the investment properties you sold in the last 3 years, 4 years if you want, doesn't really matter, but just go 2 years back. This is a value add that you can bring to your client. Gives you a reason to call them.
Mm.
And when they get the call, they're going to be very excited. Like, well, what do you mean? It's tax season. I really need some tax help here. You can help me? Yes, I can. And then you can do a cost segregation on that. But it's a value add and gives you a reason to call past clients.
Yeah.
And
I'm
they're
thinking,
like, well, I haven't heard from you in 2 years. It's just your timing was perfect. My cousin's buying a house or this or that or whatever. But it just gives you another reason to reach out.
so let's talk about the process. Like, let's say that, like, because I know that there's a little bit of front end work that you would need. What are like, you sent a questionnaire through to Kelly and myself and,
Yeah.
and Justin that we had to obviously give you as much information as possible in order to do this. What does it look like in the front end side of things here, Tom? Like, what information does somebody have to kind of get ready? Because I know that you did a wonderful job with the vague information that we gave you, because it was relatively vague on a few of the properties. But
Yeah.
that said, is that we've got to, like, you'll get better results if ultimately you'll get a better understanding if ultimately you can give what you need up front. So what are some of the items, or what are the items that are needed most of the time on an individual property?
Yeah. Really the purchase contract.
Mhm.
If it's newly purchased, we don't need tax returns. If it's something that has been in service, their tax return is necessary, and not necessarily the full tax return, maybe just the depreciation schedule.
Okay.
Sometimes people don't know how to grab that. They don't know what it looks like, so they just send the full tax return. That's fine. So if it's an existing property, that will give us right away of understanding how that CPA is depreciating that asset.
Okay.
So it might be accelerated, it may not, but we'll have an idea of where that's going. So tax return, a purchase contract is always nice. The appraisal is nice; it gives us more information. We have access to title, so we can get property. So we have to figure out the land basis and the cost basis of the property improvement value. But really, it's just and the more the better. But the
Yeah.
contract, the appraisal, um, maybe even a closing statement. It would be nice to know if this is involved in a 1031 exchange. That's also good to know. Uh, Copy of the tax return. That's it. And if it's a residential property, if it's a long term or is it a VRBO short term?
The funny, I guess that this is a odd question, but what are the situations that you have on a daily, weekly, whatever basis where you can't help somebody? Like, what are the situations that people bring to you and you're like, sorry, we just can't really help you?
I have come across that. I can't think of that right at the moment. Sometimes there's a lot of times where a CPA just is not aware of it, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so CPA might say, "No, this is not for you."
Right. Do
It's
you
like, well,
find, but like
why
at
is
that,
that? But
yeah, but that at that point, I'd be turning around and going, I need to get a new CPA if they don't want to get that creative.
well, that's the thing. You don't know what you don't know, and
Mm.
so my father-in-law is a retired tax attorney of 50 years. We offer CPE classes for CPAs, and they look at this stuff and they say, "Wow, I never knew this." We
Yep.
have a CPA that actually is sells cost seg for us,
Yep.
and he's been a CPA for 40 years. He's like, "Yeah, I just did a 16-hour training. They spent 20 minutes on cost segregation out of 16 hours." So it's not something that they want to be conservative. They want to make sure your taxes are done on time and done right, but they're not going that. Not all of them. Some CPAs are really all over this, but a lot of them are like, yeah, I'm going to be conservative and I'm not going to go there. And it's like, okay, well, we've done over 45,000 studies and we've had 15 audits that we've won. And our company will go and deal with the IRS for you and take care of it for you. So it's it's all what you don't know, you don't know. It's really
Do you
comes
know?
down
Do you know it's funny how the parallels in our industries come
to yeah,
together? Like, because again, we have our real estate business, but then we have a non-distressed auction business. It's funny how if a seller finds out about our non-distressed auction model, their home is sitting on the marketplace for a period of time, it's not selling, they've done a price reduction, it's not moving, but the seller finds our information and then they come to us and they go, hey, what's this auction thing? We educate them and then they take it back to their listing agent. The listing agent 90% of the time will shoot it down and go, oh, it's shit. Don't
yeah,
do that. It's
yeah,
shit. Right?
yeah,
Because they didn't bring the idea. Whereas if we go and approach the agent and the agent then's like, yeah, I need help because the seller's unhappy with me or whatever, and then they bring it into the seller, and then the seller's like, oh yeah, this is a pretty good idea. Most of the time, it's okay. How
Yeah.
would you suggest that with agents or with like bringing this to your CPA to go, hey, I want you to be open to this, or how would you suggest those relationships? Because it's so funny how people, like you said, they don't know what they don't know, but the moment that they do, egos can be bruised.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just being ahead of the curve on that one, and being the master of your art, of your craft, and the ones that get it will be able to really get ahead of it. So I've spoken to commercial people, and this could work for residential. If you have, let's just say you have a 7-bedroom place that's walking distance to the beach, and it just has VRBO written all over it. Or if you know that it's most likely going to be a long-term rental, right?
Mm.
Maybe that product's sitting too long, right? So there's a couple things you can do to create interest on something that's been on the market too long. You can reduce the price. You can say, hey, we'll do a 2-1-3-1 buy down, whatever. We'll cover your closing costs, blah, 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 whatever. But what if you go in there, you have your seller spend 10 grand on a cost segregation study, and then you can say, buy this property and get a $250,000 tax write-off in year one. You
That's
just
pretty
brought a
good.
lot of value to that table.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty
So
good strategy as well.
that's just another way that this can work. And we haven't even talked about new construction yet. That's another animal where we can really double
Well, let's
down
let's
on cost
let's let's
segregation.
dive into that, because there's a big portion of our business, within Harcourts that is new construction. Let's talk about new construction. I know that we probably can't go down a rabbit hole too deep on this, but what's the difference in the new construction side of it? What's the classification of new construction? Give us an understanding of that.
Yeah. So what we have is a patented drywall tape, right? Nothing fancy about it, but what it does and the ability that it can do is mind blowing. And you think to yourself, why did I not create this myself, right? And so basically, what that is green zip tape. That's what it's called, greenziptape.com, if you guys want to go to the website. But basically, it allows you, after the wall's been installed, it could be 3 years, 5 years down the road. What it allows you to do is it allows you to kick off the floorboard, pull back on the tape, the seam at the very bottom. And what that tape does is it completely removes all the plaster texture on that seam all the way up or across, depending on how it is. And then you can unscrew it and remove the drywall. Okay. So you have removable, reusable, and you can relocate that drywall. That's nice. So there's two benefits to this. The one benefit is it's changing the tax classification of that wall from 39-year property to 5-year property.
Okay.
So imagine the front load depreciation you can do on all your interior non-load bearing walls when it's considered 5-year class instead of 39-year. So I've got a bid out right now. It's a big multifamily project. It's got 477,000 linear square feet of drywall. That is now tangible property, not real property,
They can be depreciated in 5 years.
in 5 years. So what it kicks off is mind blowing for developers on new construction.
So it's funny how that's an incredible innovation in a business, is that you guys have come out with a product in order to
Yes.
then get through the tax side of the business. So that's something that needs to be installed. Like, so from a new construction perspective, if somebody's here, the one thing that you'd be saying as a realtor is that, hey, do you guys use the green zip tape, to
Yes.
build the property out? Like, that is unbelievable.
Yeah. No, it isn't. And realtors very well know developers. So as far as the realtors that are listening, it's like we pay referral fees.
Yeah.
So if you want to refer us, we'll give you 5% of that contract.
That pisses me off so much, you telling me about this, because I'm just thinking about the 2 units that we added to the 5-unit one in Virginia. I'm
Yeah,
like, why didn't we know?
exactly. So where it works is you really want to do anything that's greater than 10 million or more.
Okay.
and just think to yourself, this is new construction. So when you're thinking to yourself, if you're walking into Amazon's interested in it, that's a warehouse. They don't have a lot of non-load bearing interior walls. They
Got it.
have a
Yep.
few, but not much. But what they're interested in, and I didn't mention this, there's the other side of it is the environmental. It does qualify for 17 lead credits.
Hmm.
So if you need, I think 40 or 45 to get certified as lead certified, we'll get you out of the gate with 17 of those just by using this tape on your non-load bearing walls, right?
So sorry. Explain that to me. Sorry. What do they? What does that mean? What is what? I
So
have
lead
no idea what you
credits
just said.
is they get the architects will get scored on how environmental friendly their building is.
Oh, gotcha. Is it like that? Like, yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I understand what you mean now. Yep.
And
Okay.
so when you're saying, hey, this building is built with removable, reusable, sustainable drywall, because I can take it off. So, for example, we've had over 1,000 applications of this already, but one of our clients was Chevron. They have an 88-story building in Texas. One tenant had 18 floors. I don't know if they moved up or down, but they literally moved 18 stores up or down in the 88 stories. They reused all the drywall. And so you don't have any demolition that's not going into a landfill. And so there's a tremendous and you can remove this stuff. I used to do drywall and demolition, and when I did that, it was louder than all get-go.
Yeah.
Every single tenant around was upset because you're making so much noise. But now you just unzip it, stack it, unzip it, stack it, move it down 2 floors, 3 floors, whatever, and put it back up. And so tenant improvements, that's also works really well. Also, so that's the new construction side of it. So we're doing cost segregation on existing buildings. We're doing it on new buildings, and and not a lot of people know about it.
It's a can
Not
of
a lot of
worms.
people know about it.
Tom, it's a real can of worms, and I think that you've provided with the listeners with tremendous value. We'll make sure that all of your information is in the show credits and everything along those lines.
I got one more thing to say too,
Go for it. Go for it.
because this is another big one, a huge benefit. Let's just say one of your clients buys a building and say, we're scraping this in 3 years. That resets your depreciation schedule. So
Right.
we'll do a cost seg now, give you, depending on the building, maybe $200,000, $300,000 of deductions, which is a net value to you of say 100 grand, whatever it might be, depending on your tax schedule. You'll get that benefit today, and in 3 years you scrape that building. Well, we get to redepreciate that whole new building, so that money goes away. That's yours. So
That's
massive benefit there as well. So there's a
another
lot
angle.
of different things to play on here, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is a lot of fun, and selling savings is an easy thing to do.
No doubt about it. Well, thank you for joining us on Rethink Real Estate, Tom. I think that it's been incredibly insightful. We'll make sure your information's in the show notes for everybody to reach out and get further educated. So thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.